guys, some of you may know me and some of you may not, but my name is Aislynn and I'm Miss Stacy's youngest daughter. And some of you may know me because I've done soccer camp the last 3 years, and so I've got to meet a lot of the Moline kids, Moline and East Moline kids through doing that. And today I'm going to read you one of my favorite stories that I liked when I was your age, and hopefully you like it too. It's kind of a crazy story, and so I'm going to read that to you today, and it is called The Bear That Heard Crying. So if you went to soccer camp, you know that every single year I have something that I say when I want everybody to pay attention to what the leader is saying. So everybody, usually I like blow my whistle, everybody runs into the circle, we get in a big circle, and then I say, 1, 2, 3, eyes on me. And then you guys say, 1, 2, eyes on you. So we're gonna do that. And if you're somewhere where you can say it back, go ahead and say it back. Okay, ready? 1, 2, 3, eyes on me. So today's book, like I said, is The Bear That Heard Crying. This book is written by Natalie Kinsey-Warnock and Helen Kinsey, and it is illustrated by Ted Rand. On a warm afternoon in June 1783, Sara Witcher got lost in the woods. The day began like any other Sunday. No axes rang in the Great Pine Woods because Sundays were a day of rest. A church hadn't been built yet on Pine Hill, so Papa Joseph, Reuben, John, Betty, and Sara, who was 3 years old, sat under the tree near their cabin while Mama read from the Bible. "It's a beautiful day," Papa said to Mama after dinner. "Let's walk to the summit and see Chase and Hannah's new baby." Sara loved her Uncle Chase. He took her for walks in the woods and showed her bobcat tracks and fox dens. And once he took her to a hollow tree on Pine Hill that bees had filled with honey. Mama put on her hat, and she and Papa walked along the path in the woods, and Sara ran after them. "I'm coming too," she said. "No, Sara," Mama said. "It's too far for you to walk. You must stay at home with Betty and your brothers." Sara meant to be a good girl, but she wanted to see her Uncle Chase and the new baby. So when Mama and Papa were out of sight, Sara followed them. All right, here's the picture, and here's the next page. She walked along the Berry Brook. Brook trout swam in the deep green pools. High above her head, squirrels and gray jays scolded her. The trees grew so tall, Sara was sure they touched the sky. "I'll pick some flowers for Aunt Hannah," Sara thought. She was so busy looking for wildflowers that she wandered from the path into the deep woods. She ate some wild strawberries and picked bunches of wood sorrels and dogtooth violets. A bobcat leaped over a log, scaring her, but he bounded past, chasing a rabbit. Sara walked on and on. Blackberry brambles scratched her hands and feet, and her legs were tired. "I hope Papa and Mama come back soon," she thought. But Mama and Papa never came. Darkness crept into the woods. The wind moaned through the trees like a crying animal. It made Sara want to cry just to hear it. She was too tired to walk anymore, so she sat on a mossy rock. She tried to be brave, but the woods seemed too big and too dark, and before she knew it, she was crying. She was hungry and so tired, and she wanted to go home. What was keeping Mama and Papa so long? Here's the picture. There she is right there, walking in the woods, and then there's the bobcat chasing the rabbit. She heard branches cracking. She held her breath, listening. Something was crashing through the bushes, coming right at her. A big black head poked through the bushes. 2 black eyes looked at Sara, and Sara laughed. "A big black dog has found me," she thought. "He will show me the way home." It wasn't a dog that had found Sara. It was a shaggy bear, as black as the night. Sara was glad to see the dog. Now she didn't feel so lonely. She patted his long brown nose and hugged him around the neck. The bear sniffed her face and then licked the strawberry juice from her hands and the blood from her feet where the blackberry brambles had scratched her. Sara put her head on his shoulder, and the bear lay down beside her. Sara snuggled into his thick, warm fur. Papa and Mama will find me tomorrow, she thought, and she fell asleep. Big bear. This is the best picture. She's sleeping with a bear. It's crazy. Back on the path, Mama and Papa were hurrying home. The children ran to greet them. "Why did you leave Sara up at Uncle Chase's?" Reuben asks. "We did not leave her," Papa said. "We told her to stay at home with you." "She's been there all day," Joseph cried. "We thought she had gone with you." Mama's face turned white. "Sara is lost in the woods," she cried. Reuben grabbed the dinner horn and bolted for the woods. Mama ran to the Richardsons, their nearest neighbors, for help. Other neighbors came. They shouted into the forest and built great fires, hoping Sara would see them. But Sara didn't come back. No one slept that night. Papa searched the woods in the dark. Mama sat by the open door all night listening for Sara. In the morning, the news of the lost child traveled over mountains and valleys. All who heard it left their farms and hurried to Pine Hill. Some of the neighbors left their oxen yoked in the fields. Joseph Patch came with his long-barreled gun. For 3 days, people searched for Sara throughout the darkest forest of Moose Hill, Hillock Mountain, up to Oak Falls, all along the path to the Oliverian River, where it tumbled out of the dark ravines along Black Mountain. But every night they returned hungry, tired, and discouraged because they had not found Sara. There's the big fire right there. And these are her family right there. Here's another picture of them looking for her, and they have horns and their guns, and they're by the river and waterfall looking all over for her. Late in the afternoon, one of the men burst out of the woods. He was breathing hard from running. "I found Sara's footprints near Berry Brook," he said, "but there were bear tracks next to them." "She's been torn into pieces," several in the crowd said. Mama covered her face with her hands. The children looked at each other, but they didn't say a word. "She will never be found," someone said. "We might as well give up." "No," said Mama, lifting her head. "Don't give up yet. Please look for her one more day." The searchers were sure that the bear had killed Sara, but no one wanted to say that to Mama, so they agreed to look for one more day. But no one expected to find Sara. Poor Mama. At daylight, the woods filled again with people. Mrs. Richardson stayed at the Witcher cabin to bake bushels of beans to feed the searchers. She was busy by the fire when she heard a knock at the door. A man stood there. He was dusty and tired and looked as if he had walked a great distance. "My name is Heath," he said, "and I can find the child." Just then, Joseph Patch came into the clearing. "What makes you think you can find her when we've looked for 4 days with no luck?" he said. "Last evening I heard that a little girl was lost," Mr. Heath said. 3 times during the night I dreamt that I found her lying under a great pine tree where the path crosses Berry Brook. A bear was guarding her." "I don't know as I believe it," Mr. Patch said, "but I'll take you along the path." Where the path crossed Berry Brook, Mr. Heath stopped. He looked around and then plunged through the bushes. Mr. Patch followed him, and there was Sara, sleeping under a large pine tree, just as Mr. Heath had said she would. There were bear tracks all around her. Sara opened her eyes and sat up. "I want to go to Mama," she said. Here's Mr. Heath. And there's a picture of them from here. If you look right there, you can see a little bear. Joseph Patch fired his gun into the air and then picked her up and carried her home. Everyone they met ran ahead of them, shouting and waving their hats. They all talked about Mr. Heath's wonderful dream. Papa and Mama heard the shots and hurried back to the cabin. They heard the shouts of the crowd. "John, Sara, we've found her!" And then they saw Sara in Joseph Patch's arms. That's a good picture. Mama fainted. Papa couldn't say a word, but he smoked his pipe as hard as he could. Joseph, Reuben, and John whooped and hollered, and Betty clapped her hands. "Sara's home! Sara's home!" she sang. Oh, she must be famished, poor thing, said Mrs. Richardson, and hurried to fix her some soup. Papa carried Sara into the house. He sat in the rocker, holding her tight. "Did you see anyone in the woods?" Papa asked her. "A big black dog stayed with me every night," Sara said. "He was friendly and his fur was warm." Papa looked at Mama and Mama looked at Papa, and no one told Sara that the large black dog had been a bear. Never had such a feast been prepared. Mrs. Richardson brought out her pans and baked beans, and the women made venison stew, hasty pudding, and cornbread with honey. There they all are, celebrating. Papa said a prayer of thanksgiving, and everyone sang. All the men blew horns and fired their guns over and over until the powder on Pine Hill was so used up. So great was the joy that Sara was found. Oh. That's the end. A little picture of the bear walking away right there. And there's one little thing at the beginning of the story that is really important and makes this story super crazy. It's called the author's note. So the author is the person who wrote the book. And it's really short, and it says, "The story of Sara Witcher is true. Sara was only 3 years old when she got lost in the woods near Warren, New Hampshire in July of 1783. For 4 days, people from surrounding towns looked for her, and just when the search was about to be called off, Mr. Heath showed up and found her according to his dream. When she was older, Sara wrote down what she remembered of those days in the woods with the big black dog that found her. Many of the searchers wrote down their accounts also. It was these accounts that my sister, Helen, found in an old history of Warren, New Hampshire, while doing genealogical research, and we went together to research the area where the Witchers lived and where Sara got lost. The story is all the more special to me because Sara Witcher is my great-great-great-great-great-aunt. Her brother, Jeremiah, born in 1790, 7 years after Sara was lost, was my great-great-great-great-grandfather. No record is given as to what happened to the bear. I hope it lived a long and contented life." The end.